Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. In Pakistan, security forces have killed 2 terrorists during an intelligence-based operation in western Balochistan province. The military's media wing says a soldier was martyred during the exchange of fire in AFGHAN district. It says arms and ammunition were also recovered. In Pakistan, 19 people have been killed after a bus carrying pilgrims fell down a ravine in Balochistan province. Officials say 50 people were wounded, out of which several are critical. They say the accident took place on the Khuzdar-Ratodero highway, about 40 kilometers from Khuzdar city. Dozens of Palestinians have been injured as Israeli police attacked worshippers in East Jerusalem. Palestinian media says the troops abducted at least 10 people, including a child, from Old City's Damascus Gate. India has logged more than 3,400 deaths from COVID-19 and 91,000 infections overnight. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered 47 fatalities and over 1,300 cases in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.7 million lives and infected over 174 million people. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Pakistan, security forces have killed 2 terrorists during an intelligence-based operation in Balochistan province. The military's media wing says a soldier was martyred during the exchange of fire in AFGHAN district. It says arms and ammunition were also recovered. The army says security forces are committed to defending Pakistan against nefarious designs. It vowed to protect the hard-earned peace and stability in Balochistan at any cost. The U.S. says it has started directing combat operations in Afghanistan from outside the country. In a congressional hearing, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the military is conducting air combat patrols and support from ships in the Gulf. As more than 50% of the U.S. troops have withdrawn from Afghanistan, the U.S. Defense Secretary said it will be very difficult to provide combat support to the Afghan forces once the pullout is complete. Austin said Washington is sending surveillance aircraft to Afghanistan from nations in the Gulf region. He said the U.S. is still looking for options to station troops and aircraft in neighboring countries to make the flight shorter. But he said that effort is still a work in progress and he has no timetable for completion of any negotiations. Speaking about China, Austin cautioned that it is critical to have direct lines of communication with China in case of an accident. The Taliban have rejected a Turkish proposal to guard and run Kabul's airport after US-led forces depart. In an interview, a spokesperson said Ankara is part of NATO forces and it should withdraw troops under the 2020 deal. Sohail Shaheen said the Taliban hope for good relations with Turkey after a new government is established. It comes a day after US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin discussed regional issues with Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar. In Saudi Arabia, religious scholars from Pakistan and Afghanistan have signed a declaration of peace at a meeting in Mecca. They urge the Taliban and the Afghan government to resolve differences through talks. The declaration states that violence and extremism are not linked to any religion. It also calls for an immediate end to bloodshed in Afghanistan. The declaration also aims to lead the Afghan people to the path of peace, stability and progress. The Pakistan side was led by Minister for Religious Affairs Nurul Haq Qadri. Dozens of Palestinians have been injured as Israeli police attacked worshippers in East Jerusalem. Palestinian media says the troops abducted at least 10 people, including a child, from Old City's Damascus Gate. They were protesting the visit of a far-right Israeli lawmaker, Itamar Ben-Gvir, aimed at inciting the tensions. Israeli occupying forces also fired many stun grenades and gas bombs at the Palestinians. Eyewitnesses say colonialist settlers backed by soldiers also assaulted and shouted racist slurs at the Palestinians. The G7 leaders are set to promise to share 1 billion coronavirus vaccines with the rest of the world. India has logged more than 3,400 deaths from COVID-19 and 91,000 infections overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.7 million lives and infected over 174 million people. More in this report. Calls for a wider review of India's COVID-19 death toll are growing amid suspicion that many victims have not been included in official figures. This comes a day after Bihar state revised its tally of fatalities by 4,000. In the US, the bells at the National Cathedral tolled 600 times as the death toll approached 600,000. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has announced the donation of 500 million vaccine doses.
Let me be clear. Just as with the 80 million doses we previously announced, the United States is providing these 500,000 doses with no strings attached. Let me say it again, with no strings attached. Our vaccine donations don't include pressure for favors or potential concessions. We're doing this to save lives, to end this pandemic.
Over in Europe, Public Health England's latest data shows that new cases across Britain are on the rise again. The UK has pledged to donate 100 million surplus vaccine doses in the next year to low-income countries. Britain and the US also agreed to tackle new pandemics by bolstering disease surveillance and genome sequencing worldwide. In Germany, Chancellor Angela Merkel welcomed a recent decrease in new cases but warned against the Delta variant.
We must not forget that the coronavirus has not disappeared, and we are concerned about the Delta strain, which at the moment spreads in Britain and shows an exponential growth over there. And it proves us right in upholding severe entry restrictions for Britain and also for India.
Australia's Victoria State reported 0 locally acquired cases for the first time in nearly 3 weeks. Researchers in China say they found a batch of new coronaviruses in bats, including one that may be the second closest yet to COVID-19. Meanwhile, South Africa has officially entered its third wave of infections. Pakistan has recorded 47 new deaths from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the country's death toll has surged to 21,576. The nationwide caseload is approaching 939,000 with 1,300 new infections overnight. The number of active cases in the country stands at 43,000. Over 2,800 of them are under intensive care, whereas more than 873,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. In Pakistan, 19 people have been killed after a bus carrying pilgrims fell down a ravine in Balochistan province. Authorities say children are among the victims. Officials said 50 people were wounded, out of which several are critical. They say the accident took place on Khuzdar-Rattodero highway, about 40 kilometers from Khuzdar city. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has stressed the need to deepen ties with Qatar in trade and energy. He said this in a meeting with Qatar's envoy, Sheikh Saud bin Abdurrahman bin Faisal Al Thani in Islamabad. The Premier added that the two countries enjoy vibrant bilateral political and economic relations. Khan lauded Doha for hosting a large number of Pakistani workers. In Yemen, 8 people have been killed and 27 wounded in a drone and ballistic missile attack blamed on the Houthi rebels in Marib. The rebels have been trying to capture the oil-rich province since February. Local officials say 3 big explosions shook the city, but there has been no confirmation yet from the Houthis. The attack comes only a day after the US Special Envoy to Yemen slammed Houthi attacks on civilian targets in Marib. Separately, the Arab coalition said it has destroyed a rebel drone fired towards the Saudi city of Khamis Mushait. Meanwhile, the US has imposed sanctions on several individuals and a smuggling network accused of funding the militia. French President Emmanuel Macron says China should not be the priority of NATO and urged it to work out a strategy to counter Russia. He was addressing a press conference in Paris ahead of a summit of NATO allies in Brussels next week. Macron added that the transatlantic alliance needs to know where its enemies are. The president went on to say that Paris won't align with Washington or Beijing in the Indo-Pacific region. He also announced an end to the French military operation against militants in Africa's Sahel region. Macron said the troops will now be the part of a broader international effort in the region. In France, a court has sentenced a man to 4 months in jail after he slapped President Emmanuel Macron. Damien Terrell attacked Macron when he was shaking hands with the people during a walkabout on Tuesday. The court delivered a sentence of 18 months in jail, but 14 of those months were later suspended. Earlier, he told the court he acted on impulse, but the prosecutor deemed it an act of violence. Macron says the attack was an isolated incident, but violence and hate are a threat to democracy. Thousands of people fleeing the junta's crackdown in Myanmar have crossed into India's far-flung eastern states. Civil society groups say the states of Mizoram, Manipur and Nagaland are sheltering around 16,000 people from Myanmar. Officials are worried that the refugee influx can lead to wider instability within the region. Earlier, Myanmar's junta charged deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi with corruption, the most serious charge laid against her to date. Meanwhile, Japan has called for implementing a 5-point consensus reached by ASEAN to end the crisis. Rights groups say the security forces have killed 857 people since the February 1st coup. China has opposed foreign interference in Ethiopia's internal affairs. Foreign Minister Wang Yi made these remarks on a phone call with his Ethiopian counterpart, Demeke Mekonnen. Wang said the international community should not impose unilateral sanctions on Ethiopia and respect its will. The foreign minister said China is willing to assist in Tigray and has dispatched the first batch of food aid. He added that Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan should solve the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam issue through talks. Mekonnen thanked Beijing for helping Addis Ababa fight COVID-19 and hoped to boost bilateral cooperation. UN humanitarian chief Mark Lowcock says there is famine in Ethiopia's Tigray region after a report found that around 350,000 people are living in severe crisis. He said the number of people in famine conditions is higher than anywhere in the world. 90% of the population in Tigray needs emergency food aid. The region has been devastated by fighting between government forces and the rebels. The violence has killed thousands of civilians and forced more than 2 million from their homes in the mountainous region. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Colombian police have seized 2,061 kilograms of cocaine in the Caribbean Sea. Officials say they also arrested 5 Colombians in the largest seizure of this year on the island of San Andres. The 2 tons of cocaine have an estimated value of $74 million. Officials say the drugs belong to trafficking structures linked to the Gulf Clan organized armed group. Other criminal groups in Central America were to receive them. Despite decades of anti-narcotics efforts, Colombia remains one of the world's top cocaine producers. Aerospace company Archer Aviation has unveiled its first electric flying taxi. The 2-seater demonstration aircraft Maker has been termed as a stepping stone towards commercial operations. More in this report. Archer Aviation's first electric flying taxi, Maker, made a flashy debut in Hawthorne, California, with the use of ride simulation XR technology. The battery-powered aerial vehicle is an autonomous 2-seat demonstration model for an electric vertical takeoff and landing design. It can take off and land like a helicopter and fly at 150 miles per hour for distances up to 60 miles.
Archer is building electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that will be used in and around urban environments. So these vehicles take off and land like a helicopter, but then they also fly forward on a wing. And they're all powered by these electric motors. So it's this brand new type of aviation that we're really seeing kind of being ushered in, all being driven on the advancements of battery technology.
Archer expects makers' commercial launch in 2024 in Los Angeles and Miami. It aims to counter congestion on the roads due to the increasing number of vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, we see a tremendous amount of traffic on the ground today. In Los Angeles, every day there's 50 million daily trips, of which over 5 million take over an hour. And what we're really trying to do here is move that traffic that's having trouble on the ground into the air. We're doing that in a fully sustainable form of transportation. We can do it very cost-effective and safe for the everyday user. So our real goal is to make a mass market transportation solution in and around cities.
Aerospace companies are looking for new markets and are under pressure to help decarbonize the industry. This has resulted in an increased interest in zero-emission aircraft that take off and land like helicopters but fly like planes. Another business updates. Asia Pacific markets are trading mixed today as investors digest the surge in U.S. consumer prices in May. Seoul's Kospi and Hong Kong's Hang Seng have gained 0.5%, while Australia's ASX 200 has added marginally. Mainland Chinese stocks have edged down, and the Nikkei 225 in Japan is trading flat. In the Pakistan Super League, the Lahore Qalandars beat Peshawar Zalmi by 10 runs to extend their lead at the top of the points table. Tim David's Fidey 68 and Ben Dunk's 48 helped the Qalandars put 177 runs on the board for Zalmi to chase. But Rashid Khan ripped through Zalmi's lineup with a 5 for 20 runs. Earlier, the Multan Sultans beat Karachi Kings by 12 runs at Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi. Chasing 177-run target, Karachi fell short of 13 runs. Babar Azam scored an unbeaten 85 for the Kings. In the French Open, Barbora Krejcikova has reached her maiden Grand Slam final after beating Maria Sakkari in a nail-biting semi-final. She will face Russia's Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, who is also playing her first Grand Slam final. Pavlyuchenkova earlier defeated Slovenia's Tamara Zidanšek in straight sets in the first semi-final. The Russian smashed 3 aces and won 43 service points to end Zidanšek's dream run. The Slovenian was ranked 85th and had never won a main draw match at the French Open before. Europe's football body UEFA has told Ukraine to remove a political slogan from its Euro 2020 jersey after Russia's protest. The shirt, containing a map showing Russian annexed Crimea as part of Ukraine, also included a phrase, "Glory to the heroes." UEFA previously approved the kit, but now it says the map and the wording on the shirt have military connotations. The decision sparked a backlash in Ukraine and roused anger in neighboring Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's office defended the slogans as absolutely correct. But a Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said sports should not be mixed with politics. In France's Ligue 1, Georginio Wijnaldum has signed a 3-year deal with the PSG after leaving Liverpool on a fee transfer. The Dutch midfielder joined Liverpool from Newcastle United for $36 million in 2016. The former PSV Eindhoven player made over 200 appearances for the Reds. He also helped Jurgen Klopp's side win the Champions League in 2019 and the Premier League a year later. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.